Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy Anon from Anon Gaming, and this is my second deck tech. Today's deck tech will be an interesting one because for this deck, I've never been able to find the right ratios of cards. So if you have any recommendations for the deck, please put your recommendations down the list below. Remember, I am not the end-all be-all. I'm pretty bad at the game, so take all of my advice with a grain of salt, and if you believe that you are smarter or you have better intel on how the deck should be ran or function, please let me know down below. Without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, today's deck that we will be discussing is Carrot. She is a 5,000 power mono green 5 life leader, and she reads activate main once per turn. If you have a Minx type character, rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. She's a pretty good card. Pretty interesting leader. Anyway, let's get into the deck, shall we? Starting off, we have two of the Because the Side of Justice will be whichever side wins. It is a 0-drop event that says counter. You may trash one card from your hand. Give up to one of your characters or leader cards give up to one of your leader character cards 3,000 power during this battle. And then it has a trigger. Rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. Next up, we have 4 of the Baby 5 Searcher. This Baby 5 is a 1-drop, 1,000 power, 1k counter character that says activate main, pay 1, rest this card. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, add a Don Quixote Pirates type card from among them to your hand. Place the rest onto the bottom of your deck. Next up, we have 2 of the Baby 5 non-searcher. This is only in here because it is a 2k counter. With that being said, it is a 1-drop, 1k power, 2k counter. I don't even know what its ability does, so I'm going to read it to you. End of turn. You may trash this character. Set up to 2 of your Dawn cards as active. Next up, we have 4 of the Searcher Wanda. This 1-drop, 2k power body has 1k counter. It also says on play. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Add up to 1 Minx type card other than Wanda from among them to your hand. Then place the rest onto the bottom of your deck. Wanda was the last of the 1-drops. Moving on to the 2-drops, we have 4 Milky. Milky is a 2-drop with 0 power, but 2k counter. She says activate main. You may rest this character. If you do, and your leader is a Minx type, please set up to one of your Dawn as active. Next up, we have 2 She Lin. Now, Lian, I know I'm not saying this right. My bad, G. This 2-drop has 3k power and 1k counter. It says on play, pay 1. Set up to one of your Minx type characters with a cost of 5 or less as active. This has been useful for me occasionally. If I really need an extra attack to finish out a game, it is really helpful. Especially with the Cat Viper card I'll be showing you later. Next up, we have 2 of the 2-drop Wanda. She's a 2-drop body with 3k counter, or 3k power and 1k counter. She says on play, play up to 1 Minx type card other than Wanda with a cost of 3 or less from your hand. Now we have my favorite card in the entire deck, which is 2 Electric Luna. Electric Luna is a 3-drop event that says main. All of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 7 or less will not become active in your opponent's next refresh phase. Trigger, rest up to one of your opponent's characters. This is my all-time favorite card in the entire deck, and I would run more, but I just cannot figure out what to cut for it. Except for this next card, which I'm actually going to be cutting in my next rendition of it if I decide to keep the deck after OP10, which is Inar man, I can never say his name. Inuarashi, and he is a 3-drop with 4k power and 1k counter. He says if all of your Dawn are rested, this cannot be KO'd by your opponent's effects. This card's actually really bad, and I was thinking about cutting it for 2 more copies of this next card, which are Zoe. I run Zoe to 1 of, because when I originally built the deck, I did not have any copies of Zoe, and I've just been slowly collecting them, and I've been too lazy to add more. So if you were to build the deck, I would recommend actually cutting the Inarchery, or whatever, however you say it, for 2 more Zoe, and even cutting a any other card that you feel I have too many of. So yeah, Zoe is the last. Oh, I forgot to read what it does. Zoe is a 3-drop stage. It says activate main. You may rest this stage if your leader has the Minx type set up to one of your Dawn cards as active. End of turn. Set up to one of your Minx as active. Why don't I run more of this? I just simply didn't have any until recently and was too lazy to put them in. So I would recommend taking out the Inashiri for 2 more Zoe, and then maybe 1 copy of this next card, which is Pedro. Pedro is a 4-drop, and the only 4-drop in the entire deck. Pedro is a 4-drop, 5k power, 1k counter body. He has blocker, and he says, on KO, rest up to one of your opponent's Dawn cards, or KO up to one of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 6 or less. Almost never, when you have Pedro out, will your opponent allow themselves to have a rested character with a cost of 6 or less before they deal with Pedro. So that's why I would recommend cutting 1 Pedro for an additional Zoe. Next up, 4 of the 5-drop Carrot. She's a 5-drop 6k power body with 1k counter. She says on play and when attacking. Up to one of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 7 or less does not become active during your opponent's next refresh stage. So it keeps one of your opponent's bodies that is 7 or less rested during the next turn. Next up, we have 4 Inashiri. Hopefully I said that right. This is a 5-drop body with 6k power and 1k counter. On play, if your leader is a Minx type, up to 2 of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 5 or less do not become active during their next refresh phase. So this taps down 2 bodies as compared to Carrot's 1 body, but the downside is that they have to be 5 or less. Next up, we have 2 Jewelry Bonnie. This is also a card that I would recommend cutting maybe 1 of for either another Zoe if you don't want to cut Pedro, or 1 of for the next card I'm about to show you. But this is Jewelry Bonnie. She's a 5-drop, 6k power, 1k counter. Wait, is she 1k or 2k? No, she's 1k. I thought so. 1k counter body that says on play, up to one of your opponent's rested characters or rested Dawn will not become active during your opponent's next refresh phase. She only hits 1 thing, and it's only on play, but it is anything, including Dawn. Any character, and also can hit a Dawn. So I run her at a 2 of. Next up, I'm running 1 Neko Mamushi, or as I call him, Cat Viper, because this is what he's called in the English dub of the One Piece anime. This card I actually really like, and will use the 2-drop Inashiri to play it out. Or to unrest it, so set it as active and then swing again. And I would also recommend, if you really want to cut 1 Bonnie, to add in an additional 1 of these. I won't hold it against you. It's pretty good. And it's a 5-drop, 6k power, 1k counter. It says on play, if your opponent has 7 or more rested cards, this includes Dawn and characters, this gains Rush. It's a really good body, and it has Rush. This deck really struggles with having Rush and the ability to kill other things without Pedro. especially if they're not letting Pedro hit one of their characters. So, would recommend at least a 1 of, if not more. That's it for the 5 drops. We're jumping straight up to 7, and we're dropping 3 Hody Jones. Hody Jones is a great green staple. The one downside to him is that he is not a Minx or a Don Quixote pirate, so he cannot be searched by either Wanda or Baby 5. And Hody Jones reads, he's a 7-drop 8k power body with no counter. He has Rush. Then on play, rest up to 2 of your opponent's characters or Dawn cards. Then add 1 card from the top of your life cards to your hand. He's just an insane body, and that rest can win you games if they have blockers and whatnot. So, yeah. Next up, and forgive me for not having all 3 of these be alted. I do have more alted copies, but they're kind of spread across my decks for some weird reason, because I've been forgetting to just put them all in one deck. So, yeah. This is Don Quixote Rosinante. He's an 8-drop, 8k power body with no counter. Then he says, your opponent's turn. If this card is rested, your active characters with a cost of 5 cannot be KO'd by effects. Then he says, on play, you may rest this character and add up to 1 5-drop card from your hand to the field. So play up to 1 5-drop from your hand. He's a really good card for this deck because, as you noticed, or you may have noticed, we have a lot of 5-drops. So he's actually really nice. In fact, I think my original list ran more 5-drops. But yeah. Next up, we're running 1 copy of 9-drop Shanks. He is a 9-drop body with 11k power and no counter. He says on play, KO up to 1 of your opponent's rested characters. This can hit anything as long as it's rested. Last, but certainly not least, we have 3 10-drop Don Quixote del Flamingos. Don Quixote del Flamingo is a menace in green. He is a 10-drop with 10k power and says on play, keep 3 of your opponent's leaders or character cards from becoming active during your opponent's next refresh phase. So this keeps 3 things tapped. It can be a leader and 2 dudes. It could be 3 dudes. It's whatever you need it to be. He is so versatile. He's so useful. And he is an absolute unit. That is the last card in our deck. Now listen. This deck has been a constant changing deck for me. Like ratio-wise. So this probably won't end up being the final version of this deck unless I take it apart for OP10. But with that being the case, please don't yell at me. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bye.